Hello and welcome. Today, we're jumping into a huge, and I mean huge debate from modern Indian history, the battle over what education is even for. And trust me, this was never just about schools or what kids read in books. This was a fight for the very soul of a nation.
And really, it all boils down to this one question. Is education meant to create loyal citizens? Is it about unlocking creativity and free thinking? Or is it maybe about learning practical skills so you can support yourself? For more than 100 years, India's greatest minds wrestled with this, and their answers literally shaped the country we see today.
All right, so to really get this, we have to go back to the beginning, back to the British colonial education system. This wasn't some haphazard thing. It was a system designed with a very clear mission, and the guy behind it was Lord Macaulay.
Now, Macaulay did not mince words. He was totally blunt about it. He saw India as, well, uncivilized, and he believed the cure was English. For him, the English language wasn't just another subject. No, it was a tool to completely reshape the entire culture.
So this is the key takeaway, right? This system was never just about teaching people to read and write. The goals were laid out for everyone to see. Get Indians reading what the British called the finest literature, change their values, their tastes, and ultimately create a whole class of people who were Indian by blood, but totally English in their thinking and loyalty. But, that colonial model didn't just sail through without any pushback. One of the earliest and most practical challenges came from a pretty unexpected place. Not from a fiery nationalist, but from a forward-thinking ruler, Maharaja Sayajirao Gaikwad III of Baroda.
And this is just incredible, really. Gaikwad becomes the very first Indian ruler to make primary education free and mandatory for everyone. He put his state years, maybe even decades, ahead of the rest of British India.
And he was smart about it. He didn't just announce it and hope for the best. He started small with a pilot project in just 10 villages back in 1893. He proved it could work, and by 1906, boom, it was the law across his whole state. He also knew that schools need support, so he founded more than 1,500 libraries. Just amazing.
So all of that really sets the stage for the main event, the heart of our story. This incredible philosophical duel between two of India's absolute icons, Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore. Now, they both agreed the British system was a mess, but their ideas for fixing it, totally different. For Gandhi, the biggest problem was psychological. He argued that the whole colonial system wasn't just bad at teaching, it was actively harmful. It was teaching Indians that their own culture was somehow less than, and that Western civilization was the only thing worth admiring.
So his solution was all about restoring that dignity. He pictured an education built around practical skills. Learning a useful craft. That way, a child could develop their mind and become self-sufficient. And, crucially, it all had to be taught in Indian languages to help students connect back to their own culture.
But Rabindranath Tagore, he was looking at it from a completely different angle. For him, the problem with those rigid, stuffy British schools was that they were just crushing the most important part of being a kid, their natural curiosity and their desire to create.
Tagore's idea of a school was so beautiful and, freeing. He was convinced that real learning couldn't happen inside a classroom box. It needed freedom, it needed nature, it needed imagination. And that's exactly why he started his school, Santiniketan, out in the countryside, where kids could learn as part of the world around them.
Okay, this is where you really see the clash of ideas side by side. Gandhi was really skeptical of the West, right? He focused on self-reliance, practical skills. Tagore, on the other hand, didn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. He wanted to blend the best of Western and Indian ideas. So his curriculum had science and tech right next to art, music, and dance. It was all about sparking that intellectual curiosity. It's a debate we're still having today, really.
So, you've got these massive, powerful ideas floating around. The next big question was, how do you take all of that and turn it into a single national policy for a free India? I mean, if the British system was for control, what would a system for freedom look like?
And there were other important voices in this conversation too. Take Aurobindo Ghosh. He tied education directly to the freedom struggle itself. For him, the number one job of a national education system had to be to awaken a spirit of nationality, to make students proud of who they were.
All this talk, all this debate, it finally came to a head in 1937 at the Warta Conference. This is where Gandhi's ideas were shaped into an actual national plan called Nai Talim, which means basic education. This was the moment his philosophy was about to become official policy.
And the plan that came up with was actually pretty clear and powerful. First, 7 years of free and mandatory education for every child. Second, all the learning would be connected to some kind of hands-on, productive work. And third, kids would be taught in their own mother tongue, finally breaking free from the dominance of English.
But then, well, as it so often happens, history had other plans. World War II broke out, the Congress ministries resigned in protest, and this whole radical new education plan just stalled. It never got off the ground. It's one of those big what-ifs of history for sure.
Okay, so the Naya Talim plan got put on hold, but the conversation? Oh, it was far from over. After independence finally came in 1947, the leaders of the brand new India had this massive task ahead of them. How to take all those pre-war dreams and turn them into a reality for the whole nation.
And a major player in this new chapter was Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. He was a philosopher who would later become India's second president. And he was handed a super important job to figure out the future of university education, to set the tone for how this new, free nation was going to educate its best and brightest.
And when you hear what he had to say, you can totally hear echoes of both Gandhi and Tagore. Radhakrishnan also believed that education had to be about more than just cramming your head full of facts. For him, the goal was to develop the whole person, to build wisdom and to nurture the human spirit. It was about making sure that learning served the soul of the new nation, not just its economy.
So this incredible century of debate, it wasn't just about policy changes. It was a deep philosophical struggle to define the very purpose of learning for an entire civilization. And it leaves us with a pretty powerful question, doesn't it? In our own crazy, fast-changing world, what is the purpose of education now? What should we be asking it to do for us?